When did you realize your supportive family member was stealing your future? I'm literally sitting here in the waiting area of the most expensive therapist I could find, and I just found out my sister-in-law drained my savings account to pay off her Chipotle addiction and fund her weird online gambling habit. I mean, I know that sounds like a joke, but I'm shaking so hard my iPhone 14 battery is struggling to keep up with the tremor. How did I not see this coming? Past me was an absolute clown. I need to vent this somewhere because I cannot even look at my husband, Jeffrey Barnes, 26M, right now without seeing dollar signs and massive, inexcusable negligence. This is long. Buckle up. I'm Audrey Martin, 39F. I'm an immigrant experience navigator basically. I help new arrivals sort out housing, jobs, and social services. It's hard work, but it's meaningful. I've been in this country since I was 17. I came here with nothing, and every single dollar I earned, every security deposit, every penny was earned the hard way. And GL, I'm fiercely protective of my finances because I know what it's like to start over with zero. Jeffrey and I have been together for 2 years, 8 months. We live in apartment 3B, a decent but tiny place we split rent on $1,247 is my half. He's usually pretty quiet, kind of a silent observer. That was actually one of the things I loved about him initially. He was calm, stable, didn't create drama. Spoiler alert, silence is not stability, it's avoidance. The problem, or rather the walking, talking, blonde, discrimination-enabling problem, is his older sister, Megan Thompson, 41F. Megan is a piece of work. It doesn't work, she lives off a very complicated trust fund setup, and she truly believes the world owes her everything because she had a rough childhood. She grew up in a mansion, by the way. She's constantly complaining about being discriminated against because the Starbucks barista didn't call her Ms. Thompson or because the Target cashier asked if she wanted to open a red card. She uses the word trauma more than my actual licensed therapist. Jeffrey loves his sister. It's that deep, codependent, only us against the world sibling bond, even though Megan treats him like a glorified errand boy. But I respected it mostly, until the money started getting weird. It started small, like 2 months ago. I noticed an extra $43.67 charge on my joint credit card, the one we use for shared household stuff and streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Disney plus the essentials. It was labeled Trader JOES Dallas. Wait, live in Seattle? I asked Jeffrey about it while he was watching some boring TikTok compilation on his Samsung Galaxy. His battery was dying naturally, so he was glued to the charger. Me? Hey, did you order groceries in Dallas? I see a Trader Joe's charge. Jeffrey doesn't look up. Oh yeah, that was probably Megan. She needed a quick few things. We shared a Lyft account ages ago and sometimes our cards are linked. Me? Okay, but this is my specific Chase Visa, Jeffrey. And she lives in Austin, not Dallas. Did she borrow it? Jeffrey? No. She said she was passing through Dallas, I think. It's just $40, Audrey. Just forget about it. I'll Venmo you the $43.67. He never Venmoed it. And honestly, I forgot about it because I was swamped. I had 8 Zoom meetings that day and my inbox was at 247. You're dealing with refugee families who are literally facing eviction. $43.67 for organic kale seems like a stupid thing to fight over. I know, red flag, I dismissed it. 2 weeks later, it happened again. This time it was weirder. A $347 bill for plumbing SERVICS. I was livid. We had a broken garbage disposal last month and the plumber charged us $85, paid via Cash App. This $347 was entirely random. Me, Jeffrey, plumbing, what is this? I showed him the notification while we were trying to meal prep, chopping sad-looking Costco vegetables. Jeffrey stammers, I wait, what? Oh, that must be her again. She said she had a huge sewage backup at her place. Like catastrophic. I guess she used our account for the emergency payment. Me, she used our account? Why would she use our joint account for her sewage? We have separate finances, Jeffrey. She's 41 years old and has a trust fund. Jeffrey, she didn't have her wallet. Her card was declined, I guess. She was stressed, Audrey. You know how she gets. She said she'd pay me back when the wire transfer from the trust clears. You're being dramatic. You're being dramatic. That's Jeffrey's go-to line when he doesn't want to face the reality that his sister is a leech. I was getting frustrated, but I still didn't see the full picture. I just saw annoyance. I saw $347 gone. I told him he had to talk to Megan immediately and make sure she removed our card from any shared platform. He promised he would. He even looked me dead in the eyes and said, I promise I'll handle this. I'll change the passwords on everything. He really said that with his whole chest. Spoiler alert, he did not handle it. Next month, my main savings account, the one I use for emergencies, the one that holds the security deposit, and the money I meticulously saved for my mother's eventual plane ticket started looking light. I track my finances meticulously because, again, immigrant experience, zero safety net, you know the drill. I had set a savings goal, and I knew exactly how much was in there, $18,450. On Tuesday at 11:47 a.m., I was on my lunch break stuck at my desk, eating a cold Panera salad, ignoring the 47 notifications buzzing on my phone when I logged into the bank app. Balance, $15,600. I literally stopped chewing. I felt my stomach drop to the floor. That is a difference of $2,850. I scrolled through the transactions history, trying to bargain with myself. Maybe I misremembered. Maybe I paid a huge medical bill I forgot about. Insurance is a nightmare. My deductible isn't met. No, the math wasn't mathing. There were 14 distinct withdrawals all within the last 4 weeks. 10 of them were $200 ATM withdrawals in Austin, Texas. 4 of them were labeled P2P gaming platform. $250 each, $1,000 gone right there. I went cold. I wasn't just mad, I was numb but raging. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the iPhone. I wanted to scream, but I was sitting right next to Brenda from HR. So I did the thing where you just smile and nod while internally screaming. I called Jeffrey right away. 27 calls in 1 hour. He didn't answer. He was probably silent observing on the couch. I texted him. I immediate he'll call me. Now, this Iacentia drill. What the fuck did your sister do? No response. Red receipts were off. Classic, I left work early, clocking out at 3:30 p.m. using a precious 1.5 hours of PTO. I didn't even grab my sad leftover salad. I drove my beat-up Toyota Corolla home, breaking every speed limit. When I burst into apartment 3B, Jeffrey was indeed on the couch playing some nonsense game on the PS5. He looked up, mildly annoyed that I had interrupted his digital quest. Me, where the hell were you? I called you 27 times. Look at this. Shoved my phone screen into his face, highlighting the $2,850 loss. Do not tell me this is plumbing services or groceries. This is my savings, Jeffrey, my safety net. Jeffrey, he flinched, but then put on his best calm and rational face, the gaslighting face. Audrey, you're overreacting. I can explain. She just needed a little cash flow bridge. She had a major opportunity with this new online investment group. Me, investment group. $100 ATM withdrawals. That's not investment, Jeffrey, that's panic cash. And P2P gaming, she's gambling. Jeffrey sighed like I was the difficult one. Okay, fine, she was short, she was stressed out. She borrowed the card number from me weeks ago when we paid that $85 plumber fee for our place. She said she'd only use it once. Me, you gave her my account number and the PIN? Jeffrey, no, she guessed the PIN. It's our anniversary date, Audrey. It's not exactly rocket science. And technically, she didn't use your debit card, she just used the numbers and the account routing information for the online stuff. Look, she promised me she would pay it back next week. We're family, family helps family. I felt the blood drain from my face. My savings account, the one thing I held sacred, had been handed over to his toxic sister, the discrimination enabler, who was using my money to fund her addiction while claiming financial hardship despite her trust fund access. Me? Family? Family doesn't steal $2,850 from someone who is working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. This is fraud, Jeffrey. You enabled fraud. Jeffrey went quiet. He's good at going quiet. Silent observer strategy. Me. And you know what the worst part is? You knew this was happening. You lied to me about the first 2 charges. You let her keep going. Jeffrey. I was trying to handle it discreetly. Megan is very sensitive. She was already having a rough time. Someone gave her a dirty look at Chick-fil-A yesterday. She can't handle confrontation right now. I started shaking again, but this time it was pure, blinding rage. I saw red. The disrespect. Absolute disrespect. Me. I don't care about her sensitivity. I care about my money, our future. Did you forget what we are saving for? Did you forget the birth plan? We have been trying to start a family for the last 6 months. We had spent weeks agonizing over a low-intervention, water birth, dual-assisted birth plan that looked like a 47-page IKEA instruction manual. I wanted everything squared away financially before we took the next step. Every penny of that $18,450 was earmarked for the doula, the maternity clothes, the emergency hospital deductible, and covering my reduced salary during maternity leave. Jeffrey looked away. The birth plan is still a priority, of course, but Megan's needs right now, me? Her needs are more important than our child's future, than the security deposit we need if we move, than my mother's plane ticket. Jeffrey suddenly switched gears, getting defensive. He stood up, towering over me. He's tall, 62. Jeffrey, you are making this enormous. We can make the money back. It's not like the child is here yet. And honestly, Audrey, that whole birth plan thing, it's a little much. It's exhausting. It's just your immigrant thing needing to control everything. You're A, being dramatic and too sensitive. That felt like a punch to the gut. Using my background against me. Using the careful planning and hard work that literally saved my life to call me dramatic. I wanted to key a stupid BMW he can't afford, but I just grabbed my keys and my cracked screen phone. Me? I am done, just done. I am changing all the passwords, emptying the account, and canceling every card. I want Megan's address and phone number right now because I am going to deal with this myself, and I am going to deal with you later. Jeffrey looked mildly panicked for the first time. Wait, Audrey, you can't confront her. She'll have a meltdown. She already booked us an appointment. She thought we needed help mediating this. Me? Mediating what? Fraud? Is she going to mediate giving me back $2,850? Jeffrey? No, mediating your relationship with me. She said you were being unfair to me, and that we need a professional to help us realize that family comes first, and that your extreme financial anxiety is toxic. He booked us a session with her personal grief counselor, Dr. Alara. We are supposed to be there now, actually. It's Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. My jaw literally dropped. The audacity. She stole my money, turned my fiancé against me, minimized my entire life's work, and then booked us mandatory counseling so I could be taught how to be a better victim. I walked out. I didn't say another word. I drove straight to the office on the 5th floor where the appointment was. I needed to see this woman, Megan Thompson, face to face. I needed to see the expression on her face when she realized her plan had backfired. I walked into the sleek beige waiting room that smelled faintly of expensive essential oils. There they were. Jeffrey, 26M, slouching in a leather chair, still texting, looking like a guilty teenager. Megan Thompson, 41F, pristine in an overpriced Free People dress, sipping a Starbucks drink, venti iced caramel macchiato, non-fat, extra shot, no whip, of course. She gave me a brittle, condescending smile. Audrey, darling, I'm so glad you showed up, she purred. We just need to process your trauma response to the temporary loan. Jeffrey and I agree that your rigid birth plan is just a symptom of your deeper issues. I told Dr. Alara everything, don't worry. Rage I felt was so immense it made my ears ring. I couldn't even form a coherent sentence. Before I could unleash the torrent of anger, the door to the office opened. A woman in a charcoal suit stood there. Megan, Jeffrey, Audrey, please come in. I'm Dr. Alara. Let's start establishing a treatment plan. We followed her into the room. It was one of those aggressively comfortable counseling offices with soft lighting and a box of fancy tissues. Dr. Alara indicated 3 chairs. Jeffrey took the one closest to the door. Megan took the central one. I sat down on the far end, ready to explode. Dr. Alara smiled warmly, holding a notepad. All right. Megan reached out to me, describing some serious family discord regarding financial trust in Megan. You mentioned Audrey's extreme difficulty processing the stress related to her chosen birth plan. Megan nodded sagely. It's the control doctor. It's the immigrant background causing the anxiety. She needs to understand that sometimes you just have to let go and trust that family will support you, even if the money gets a little fluid. Jeffrey just nodded silently, avoiding my eyes. Silent observer indeed. I leaned forward. I was done with silence. I was done with politeness. I didn't care about their feelings anymore. Me, Dr. Alara, before we talk about my extreme difficulty processing stress, I need to clarify something. Megan Thompson stole $2,850 from my savings account via fraud, and Jeffrey enabled it. That money was specifically for our future child's expenses, which is the entire reason the rigid birth plan exists. I am not here for family counseling. I am here for a financial confrontation. Megan didn't even blink. She just took another slow, deliberate sip of her Starbucks. Megan, oh, Audrey, we've already been over this. It was a temporary loan. And actually, since we are being honest about priorities, I have something I need to address about the birth plan, too, because frankly, it's discriminatory against me. I just stared at her. Was she serious? Discriminatory. Megan set her empty cup down, looked me dead in the eye, and with that same smug, self-pitying tone she uses every time she is forced to endure a mild inconvenience, she said, "The problem, Audrey, is that your whole low intervention, no pain meds plan is fundamentally flawed because I cannot be present in the delivery room if the smells and the screaming trigger my trauma. And if I am not present for the birth of my first niece or nephew, I will be deeply traumatized. And frankly, my trust fund lawyer says that could be grounds for emotional damages." I couldn't breathe. My chest went tight. I had walked into a counseling session about my stolen money, only to be told that my carefully saved birth plan was being unilaterally ignored, not for medical reasons, but because my sister-in-law's trauma over the smell of a birthing person was more important than my physical experience or my financial stability. And then Jeffrey spoke. He finally broke his silence. "Jeffrey, she has a point, Audrey. We should really consider scheduling a C-section or something less messy. For Megan's sake. For the treatment plan." I looked at Jeffrey. I looked at Megan. I looked at the neutral, slightly concerned face of Dr. Alara, waiting for my response. The $2,850 was almost forgotten under the weight of this insane, cruel manipulation. I just started laughing, a harsh, horrible sound that didn't stop. I was done. They wanted a treatment plan? Fine. I wiped the snot from my nose, looking directly at the therapist. Opened my mouth to tell her exactly what the treatment plan was going to be, starting with the police report I was filing the moment I walked out of that office. But before I could speak, Megan raised her hand to stop me, smiling sweetly at the doctor. "Megan, before Audrey self-sabotages Dr. Alara, there's one crucial thing she hasn't mentioned yet. It's the real reason she's hoarding that money. It's why she's so obsessed with the birth plan. It's the real complication." Megan leaned in, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper that somehow carried through the entire room. "Audrey is actually still legally married to a man in her home country, and the divorce hasn't been finalized, which, makes her whole birth plan with Jeffrey kind of a fraud too." My heart hammered against my ribs. I froze. I never told Jeffrey that. I had only mentioned it once, years ago, to Megan in a drunken moment of oversharing. How did she remember that? How did she know it wasn't finalized yet? And why would she use it now? Jeffrey looked up, his jaw slack. He looked directly at me. "Jeffrey, Audrey, is that true?" I knew it didn't matter what I said. The shock, the betrayal, the sheer calculated cruelty of her move had landed. I felt dizzy, my vision blurring. Everything was unraveling, and I had no idea how to stop the momentum. I looked at the $2,850 thief and the silent observer I loved, and I realized I was trapped in this beige, overpriced room, and they were both waiting for my answer. How much did Megan know? And what was her real end game? Y'all, I literally thought I was going to black out right there in the aggressively comfortable chair. Megan, the thief, the discrimination enabler, was just sitting there, sipping air, waiting for me to spontaneously combust, which TBH was a real possibility. Jeffrey, oh Jeffrey, his face was pure white. He didn't look angry, he looked confused. Like I had just ruined his favorite episode of whatever nonsense was on the PS5. "Audrey, is that true?" he repeated, his voice wavering slightly. Silent observer finally had something real to observe, and he looked like he wanted to jump out the fifth-floor window. I looked at Megan. Her smugness was a physical thing. She was enjoying this more than her stupid venti caramel macchiato. She was calculating, cruel, and she had just weaponized the one secret I had buried deep, because I was waiting for the right, stable, secure moment to finalize the logistics and tell him. I know, I should have told him sooner. Asmi was an idiot, but the sheer audacity of her revealing it here, in this moment of financial betrayal, just so she could justify stealing $2,850 and demanding a C-section for her comfort, it snapped something in me. I looked at Dr. Alara, the therapist who was getting paid God knows how much per hour to mediate fraud and sibling drama. Dr. Alara had her professional poker face on, pen hovering over her legal pad. Me? Yes, Jeffrey, it is true. I was married when I was 19, back home. It was an arranged thing that ended before I even came to the US. It's complicated to dissolve across international borders, especially when the person is unreachable and the government paperwork is a nightmare. I was waiting until I had the full $5,000 saved for the final legal fees and translation services before I brought it up to you, and we found an immigration lawyer to handle the final push. Have the preliminary consultation notes right here on my phone. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I wanted to handle the logistics before presenting the problem. I was calm. Surprisingly, terrifyingly calm. I think the shock had kicked in, turning me into a logic machine. Jeffrey looked devastated, and honestly, a small, petty part of me felt satisfaction that Megan's plan was backfiring on the emotional front. Jeffrey, you were going to wait until you had $5,000. You didn't trust me to help you pay for the divorce. After 2 years and 8 months. Me, no, Jeffrey. I didn't trust anyone to touch my financial security until I had secured my own stability. That $5,000 was part of the $18,450 balance that your sister stole from. You know what? That is exactly why I didn't tell you, because you enable people who steal from me. And if I told you, I was afraid you would tell Megan, and Megan would inevitably find a way to make it about her. I pointed directly at Megan. My hand wasn't even shaking anymore. Me? Case in point, she just used a secret I shared with her years ago that she clearly filed away for future weaponization to distract from the fact that she committed felony fraud and theft. Megan, you stole from my future child's fund. You are so self-obsessed that you think the scent of a human body naturally giving birth is a personal trauma trigger that warrants demanding major surgery for someone else. You are an actual villain. Megan scoffed. Oh, please, Audrey, felony fraud? Don't be so dramatic. It was a temporary relocation of funds. And frankly, your inability to be honest with Jeffrey about your marital status means that anything you were planning, including this birth plan, is invalid. You don't get to control everything when you're living a lie. Dr. Alara cleared her throat gently. She finally decided to intervene. Dr. Alara, Megan, I appreciate the context, but Audrey's prior marital status is secondary to the immediate financial and trust concerns. Let's redirect back to the $2,850 and Jeffrey's role in facilitating access to the accounts. Megan leaned back, dismissing the doctor with a slight head tilt. No, doctor. Marriage is the core issue. It proves she is the manipulative one. I am the victim here of her accusations, of her financial anxiety, and potentially of her trauma-inducing birthing experience. Jeffrey, you know I'm right. She's always been too intense about money. Jeffrey, the silent observer, looked like a deer in the headlights. He kept looking back and forth between us, completely incapable of processing both betrayals at once. The financial one and the personal one. Jeffrey, I don't know what to say. I thought we were building a future. I thought you trusted me. Me? I thought you trusted me, Jeffrey. I thought you would protect our financial security, which is the foundation of our future. Instead, you gave my access codes to a known gambler and told me I was dramatic when I questioned $43 for Dallas Kale. I can forgive the marriage thing, it's paperwork, it's complicated logistics, and I was going to tell you the moment I had the final retainer secured. But I cannot forgive you enabling a thief to drain my savings and then sitting here pretending I am the problem because I need financial stability. I stood up. I was done with the beige room, the essential oils, and the $400 an hour drama coach. Me, Dr. Alara, this is my treatment plan. Step 1, I am filing a police report against Megan Thompson for theft and fraud. Step 2, I am withdrawing every last dollar from every joint account and changing the locks on apartment 3B, effective immediately. Jeffrey, you can figure out where you're going to live, but I am keeping the apartment. I have the rental history, I have the full security deposit in my name, and I make enough to cover the full rent until the lease is up in 3 months. Step 3, I am breaking up with you. Silence in the room was deafening. Megan's mouth actually dropped open. Jeffrey looked like he'd been slapped. Jeffrey, wait, Audrey, you can't just break up with me over this. It was only $2,850. We can talk to a lawyer about the fraud, but we need to talk about us. We were going to have a baby. Me, we were planning to have a baby based on stability and mutual respect. You chose your sister, her gambling habit, and her fake trauma over me and our future child. You prioritized her emotional comfort over my physical safety during birth. The birth plan was my security plan, Jeffrey. You ignored it. You ignored me. I don't want to raise a child with someone who will always put his manipulative sister first. You are not stable. You are an avoidance machine. I'm out. I turned to Megan. Me, enjoy the police investigation, Megan. And maybe get actual therapy for your actual addiction instead of making up fake trauma to justify being a monster. I walked out of the office. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for them to follow. I just got in my beat-up Toyota Corolla and drove. I was shaking again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline and pure, clean certainty. So 2 days later, I needed to move fast. My first stop after leaving the counselor's office was the bank branch, not the ATM. I needed a real human. I literally drained my savings account down to $50, transferred the rest to a new bank, a credit union 3 cities away, and closed the old Chase account entirely. The only money remaining in the joint household account was $47.32, which I figured was a decent severance package for Jeffrey. I spent Tuesday night at my friend Chloe's place. Chloe is a powerhouse attorney, IP law, not criminal, but still, and she went full rage mode on my behalf. She helped me draft a formal letter demanding repayment from Megan and outlining the timeline of fraud, including the exact transaction labels. Chloe, and GL Audrey, this is textbook embezzlement by family, and Jeffrey is an accessory. You need to keep everything documented. Print the bank statements, screenshot the texts, everything. I was exhausted. Hadn't slept, I had stressed in an entire bag of hot Cheetos, sorry digestive system, and I had canceled Wednesday appointments, claiming a sudden necessary medical leave. Which TBH was true. My heart felt like it was going to fail. Wednesday morning, I drove back to apartment 3B. Jeffrey had left 3 rambling, panicked voicemails on my cell, which I ignored. I got there at 9 a.m., planning to pack the essentials and get out. I changed the apartment locks first thing. I called my landlord, who is awesome, and explained I was separating from Jeffrey and would be taking over the lease entirely, paying the full $2,494 starting the first of the month. She was sympathetic, thank God. When I walked in, Jeffrey was gone. He probably went to his useless part-time job, or more likely, to cry on Megan's expensive velvet couch. I packed ruthlessly. My clothes, my books, my laptop, my financial documents, the framed photos of my mom and me. I packed the doula handbook, the ridiculous birth plan, which now felt like a relic from an ancient, optimistic civilization, and the unopened baby shower gifts from a well-meaning coworker who jumped the gun. A quick update before I lose my mind. Jeffrey showed up at 1 p.m. while I was moving the last of my kitchen supplies into Chloe's borrowed pickup truck. He looked haggard. He hadn't shaved. He was wearing that stupid stained hoodie he loves. Jeffrey, Audrey, what are you doing? I've been calling you. Why are the locks changed? You can't just do this. Me, I just did it, Jeffrey. I broke up with you. I told you that 2 days ago. I'm moving my essential belongings. The lease is now entirely in my name. You have until Friday to get your stuff out. I will leave the keys for the new locks with the landlord. Jeffrey started crying. Actual messy tears. The kind that don't make you feel sorry for them, just annoyed that you have to watch. Jeffrey, please, Audrey, don't do this. I'm so sorry. I'll pay you back. I talked to Megan. She promised she'd get the money by the end of the month. We can fix this. I love you. Me, you didn't love me, Jeffrey. You loved the low-drama stability I provided while your sister drained my resources. You loved the silent observer role that allowed you to avoid confrontation. And now you're suddenly deciding to care when your comfortable life is threatened. Jeffrey, but the birth plan, the baby, we were going to start a family. I just needed to stand up for Megan because she was having a hard time. She's my sister, Audrey. You don't get the sister bond. That hit a nerve. The sister bond. The toxic, financially draining, emotionally manipulative bond that he prioritized over everything we built. Me, I absolutely understand the bond, Jeffrey. I would cut off my own hand for my family back home. But my family doesn't steal my life savings to fund a P2P gambling habit, and they certainly don't demand I undergo surgery because the smell of birth offends their delicate sensibilities. You have to choose, Jeffrey. You chose her. So now you get to deal with the consequences. He tried to grab my arm. I flinched back hard. Me, don't touch me. I'm filing the police report this afternoon. You can decide if you want to be listed as an accessory to fraud or if you want to finally grow up and testify against your sister. That shut him up. The word testify had more impact than the word breakup. Predictable. He just stood there, watching me load the last box. I drove away without looking in the rearview mirror. Fast forward to Friday. I am officially in my new place. It's a sublet Chloe found for me, a tiny studio, but it is good light and it's far away from the old neighborhood. I had to use almost $1,500 of my recovered savings for the deposit and first month's rent. The financial hit is real, and it hurts. That $1,500 was supposed to be for the doula. Now it's just the cost of my freedom. GL, I'm eating ramen and feeling exhausted, but I don't hear a PS5 running and I don't have to worry about a text from Austin saying, "Oops, used your card for a quick fix." I filed the police report. It took 4 agonizing hours at the Seattle Police Department, involving an officer who looked bored but was surprisingly thorough. The officer explained that because Megan is in Texas, it makes the process slower, but they're absolutely treating it as interstate fraud and theft. I took copies of all my bank statements, the transaction logs showing P2P gaming platform, and the ATM withdrawals. The financial confrontation was officially underway. So, a week went by where I was trying to focus on my job, which is hard when you're navigating your own chaos, let me tell you. I had 12 families relying on me for critical housing assistance, and I couldn't let them down. Had to compartmentalize, which is one of my immigrant survival skills, but man, it was draining. I got a flurry of messages, naturally. First, Jeffrey's mom. I genuinely like Jeffrey's mom. She's sweet, if a little naive. She sent me a novel via text about the importance of forgiveness and Megan's delicate constitution. Jeffrey's mom, 9:17 p.m. Audrey, honey, I know you're upset, but Jeffrey says you are taking the apartment and filing a police report. Megan is distraught. She just had a setback in her new investment venture. She means well. She needs her brother right now. You are tearing our family apart over a few $1,000s. Is that really worth ruining your relationship and the chance for a grandchild? Please call me. We need to mediate this. I read it twice. Ruining our relationship, the audacity. My response was cold, concise, and professional like an official communication from my job. Me, 9:20 p.m. I appreciate your concern. Megan Thompson stole $2,850 from my savings account, which was explicitly earmarked for maternity and child expenses. Jeffrey enabled this fraud and minimized my financial safety, while also disrespecting my bodily autonomy by demanding a C-section for his sister's comfort. This is not about a few $1,000s. It is about a profound breach of trust and criminal behavior. The police report is active. I am terminating my relationship with Jeffrey. My decisions prioritize financial security and boundaries, which Megan violated entirely. She left me on read. That was the last communication I had with Jeffrey's side of the family, besides one very angry, all-caps text from Megan herself. MEGAN 10:05 p.m. You bitch. You think you can ruin my life over a misunderstanding. I'm telling the police that JEFFRY told me IT was a joint account for household emergency. Yes, and you knew. Good luck explaining your fraudulent marriage to the immigration AUT Troy. Yes. I have PICT of your husband. You are going to regret this. I laughed out loud. The sheer panic in her threat was palpable. I screenshotted it and immediately forwarded it to Chloe and the police officer assigned to my case. Threatening retaliation based on her own criminal activity? Gold. The police officer called me back the next morning. Officer Davis, Ms. Martin, we appreciate the documentation. This confirms the intentionality of the theft. The marriage situation, while complicated, is a civil issue, not a criminal one. It is entirely separate from Ms. Thompson's theft of funds. Do not worry about her threats. They only strengthen your case against her. A conversation was the first time I felt truly powerful. The system, which I had always feared, was finally working for me, confirming that I was the victim, not the dramatic financial warrior. By Tuesday, I was feeling determined, but also completely wrung out. I missed Jeffrey, the old Jeffrey, the one I thought was quiet and supportive. I had a moment of weakness. I almost drunk texted him on Saturday night. Chloe had confiscated my phone, thank God. I finally had the energy to check my voicemail from that chaotic Tuesday at the counseling office. There was one message, left right after I walked out. It was Jeffrey. He sounded small and defeated. Jeffrey, voicemail, 5:47 p.m. Audrey, look, I am sitting here with Megan and she's just staring at me. I don't know what to do. I got served with papers from her lawyer, saying that if I don't immediately cut ties with you and testify that you were emotionally abusing Megan by withholding money and criticizing her lifestyle, they're going to sue me for defamation or something. I'm scared, Audrey. I think she was right. She always puts me in the middle. I'm going to go stay at Mom's place for a while. I'm sorry about the money. Call me when you calm down. He went to his mother's place, immediately caved to Megan's pressure and threatened legal action against him. He learned nothing. The silent observer became the cowardly witness. I deleted the voicemail. No more hope for that character development. Update, this morning, 3 days after that, I went to my actual licensed therapist, Dr. Lenore, not Dr. Alara, the scammer. I spent the entire hour just weeping about the birth plan. It sounds stupid, right? $2,850 was the real tragedy. The marriage secret was the explosion. But the birth plan, that ridiculous 47-page IKEA manual, was the symbol of the future I had painstakingly built, brick by brick, against all odds. That was the safety, the control, the promise of stability for a child I desperately wanted. And he, Jeffrey, the man I chose to build that future with, dismissed it for his sister's fake trauma. Didn't just ignore my plan, he ignored my pain, my history, and my physical agency. Dr. Lenore, Audrey, the birth plan isn't about control, it's about preparation. It's about ensuring safety because you learned early on that safety isn't guaranteed. You've had a profound realization. The person you chose was fundamentally unsafe. He failed the test of stability. That's why you're grieving the plan, not just the money or the relationship. That helped. It helped me realize that my immigrant thing about needing to control finances wasn't a flaw, it was a necessary survival strategy. And Jeffrey weaponized the language of therapy and gaslighting. You're being dramatic. Your financial anxiety is toxic, to defend his sister's criminal behavior. Okay, so I need to update you on what happened after that. The financial confrontation with Megan reached a bizarre new level. I had sent her the formal demand letter from Chloe. She didn't respond directly. Instead, I got an email from her trust fund lawyer. The lawyer, a very bored-sounding man named Richard, claimed that the funds were not stolen, but constituted a verbal, short-term, interest-free personal loan facilitated by Jeffrey. Attached a bizarre document backdated, signed only by Jeffrey and Megan, stating that Jeffrey agreed to lend his sister $2,850 from a mutual household fund for critical personal investments. I screenshotted the document and immediately sent it to Officer Davis and Chloe. Me to Chloe, they are trying to pin the complicity entirely on Jeffrey. He signed something saying it was his money to lend. Chloe, it's a desperate tactic. We knew Jeffrey would fold. This confirms his role as an accessory, but it doesn't absolve Megan of the fraud, especially since she used the routing numbers and PIN without your direct consent, and the transactions clearly show gambling platforms and out-of-state ATM withdrawals. We need to focus on two things: proving it was your savings, and proving Jeffrey did not have the authority to unilaterally loan the money. Legal battle over the $2,850 was going to be ugly, expensive, and protracted. But I decided I wasn't dropping the police report. Megan needed to face the consequences of her actions, regardless of what Jeffrey signed. 3 days after that, a Saturday, I was doing laundry at the laundromat. Sublet life is glamorous when my phone rang. It was an unknown number from Austin, Texas. I almost didn't answer, but my gut told me it was important. Hello, voice, is this Audrey Martin? Me, yes, voice, this is Jeffrey Barnes. I'm calling from my mother's house. I changed my number. I needed to talk to you without Megan or my mom listening. My heart hammered. He sounded different. Not manic, not defensive, just tired. Me? What do you want, Jeffrey? I told you we are done. The police report is filed. Jeffrey, I know. Megan, she's spiraling. She found out the police contacted Richard, her lawyer, and she had a meltdown. She canceled the police complaint about your marriage. She realized that only draws attention to her own fraud. Small victory there, I thought. She backed off the immigration threat. Jeffrey, Audrey, I need to tell you what happened. The money, it wasn't just for gambling. She used most of it to pay off a huge debt to some loan shark she met through the P2P platform. She was terrified. That's why she made the ATM withdrawals, not just the online transfers. She was panicking and she told me if I didn't help her, they would come after her and then they would come after me. I went cold. Loan sharks? This was so much worse than organic kale and Chipotle, me? And you thought stealing from your partner was the right solution for that level of danger? Jeffrey, no, I know it wasn't. But she told me, just borrow it from Audrey. She has so much saved. She won't even notice for a month. Well, pay it back before she files her crazy birth plan paperwork. She used your extreme financial planning against you, Audrey. She literally convinced me that because you were so stable and meticulous, you were the safest person to steal from. He confessed. He finally broke through the denial and the silent observer avoidance. Jeffrey, she didn't just guess the PIN. She saw me enter it months ago when we paid that plumber the $85 and she watched me. She logged it in her head. She's been planning this, waiting for an emergency. I felt nauseous, leaning against the washing machine. This wasn't negligence. This was a calculated predatory attack with Jeffrey as the willing accomplice. Me? So you threw me under the bus to save yourself and your sister from loan sharks. And when I confronted you, you gaslit me and used my deepest insecurities against me, defending her demand for unnecessary surgery. I'm sorry, Jeffrey, but that's unforgivable. Jeffrey, I know, I'm so sorry. I've started seeing Dr. Alara, actually. Not for couples mediation, but for solo therapy. She told me I have a severe case of conflict avoidance and codependency with Megan. She said I need to accept that Megan is an addict and that I am enabling her. I just wanted to tell you that I'm accepting the breakup and I'm going to cooperate with the police. He was finally getting it, but it was too late. Way too late. The damage was done. Jeffrey, I sold my PS5 and my TV this morning. Wasn't much, but it's $900. I deposited it into the old joint account. It's a start. I'm going to get a second job and pay you back every penny, Audrey. You deserve it. I messed up everything. $900. It was the first act of real accountability he had shown in 2 years. It was still $1,950 short, but it was something. Me? Keep the $900, Jeffrey. Use it for your therapy. I don't want your money. I want you to take accountability and leave me alone. Do not contact me again unless it is through the police or a lawyer regarding Megan's case. Goodbye. I hung up before he could respond. I didn't want the money back tainted by guilt or obligation. I wanted it back because Megan was a criminal and she needed to face the justice system. So it's been 2 weeks since the last chaotic conversation, and things have settled into a boring, exhausting reality. I'm still at the sublet. Had to cancel the subscription to the gym, and I'm packing my lunch every day, relying heavily on Costco bulk items and rice. The financial reality is hitting hard. I lost the momentum I had, and I'm back to square one on my savings goals. But I am sleeping. I am actually sleeping through the night for the first time in months. The absence of latent anxiety about the next mysterious charge is priceless. The police investigation is moving slowly, as Officer Davis predicted. Because Megan is across state lines, they're coordinating with Austin PD. I am realistic. I might never see the full $2,850 recovered. I already wrote it off as the cost of separating from a toxic situation. My friend Chloe has been a rock. I spent an entire Saturday binge-watching terrible reality TV and compiling evidence for my divorce proceedings. Yes, I finally bit the bullet and used a small chunk of the remaining savings to start the final legal process for the first marriage. The irony is not lost on me. Megan's betrayal finally forced me to clean up the last, lingering logistical thread of my past so I could move forward with a secure future. TBH, I found a specialist lawyer who deals with these complicated international cases, and she said it won't be $5,000, probably closer to $3,500. So I am saving again, specifically for that. I am back because you won't believe what just happened. I was at work yesterday, a high-stakes meeting with a new refugee family about Section 8 housing, when my phone started buzzing. I ignored it. And the meeting finally ended. I had 17 missed calls and texts from Chloe. CHLOE, 1:47 p.m. Call me now. MEGAN is on Instagram. She is posting about you. My stomach dropped. I immediately logged onto my old dummy Instagram account. I don't use social media for my real life. Too much drama. Megan Thompson had posted a huge, sprawling, multi-slide story. It wasn't about the money. It was about the birth plan. Megan, the discrimination enabler, had somehow tracked down a local doula group in Seattle and launched an attack on them. Her first slide was a selfie of her crying, looking perfectly tragic. Caption: when you realize your family's emotional health is being jeopardized by a rigid, trauma-inducing birth plan designed by someone with control issues. The next slide was a screenshot of my detailed 47-page birth plan, complete with my handwritten notes about essential oils and low lighting. He had cropped out my name, but left the specific, niche language. Caption: this is what extreme financial anxiety looks like, trying to control every smell, sound, and lighting adjustment for her own comfort, regardless of the emotional trauma it causes her sister-in-law. This is discrimination against people with real emotional needs. She tagged the main Seattle Doula Collective account and used hashtags like trauma-informed birth, discrimination in healthcare, #family above control. I was livid, but also just stunned by the sheer level of performance art she was committing. She was using my private, highly sensitive health documents Jeffrey clearly still had access to create a public narrative of victimhood. The final slide was the worst. It was a screenshot of a text message from Jeffrey sent a few weeks ago before his confession, where he wrote, "Megan is right. Audrey is being totally nuts about this. I wish she would just schedule a C-section and be done with it. It's too much stress." She posted his betrayal for the world to see, clearly not caring if she implicated him as long as she proved her point. I called Chloe back immediately. "Chloe, did you see that? She's completely unhinged. She's using the birth plan as evidence of your abusive control. This is next-level gaslighting." Me, Chloe, she's posting private medical information, and she threw Jeffrey under the bus again. He's destroying the one person she supposedly cares about. And how did she get the birth plan PDF? Chloe, Jeffrey probably left the iPad at his mom's place. Look, this is actually good for your police report, believe it or not. It demonstrates her persistent, calculated malice and her inability to take accountability. We need to file a restraining order, Audrey. She is harassing you and using private health information publicly. This was turning into a legal nightmare, but I felt a new sense of cold resolve. I was not going to let this woman win by turning me into the villain for simply prioritizing my own safety and future. I didn't file the restraining order yet, but I made sure every platform she had access to was locked down, and I changed all my phone privacy settings. Update: this morning, 2 days later, I was feeling particularly low. My coworkers know now. Gossip reached terminal velocity after I had to explain why I had suddenly moved and why I looked like I hadn't slept since the invention of electricity. My boss, thankfully, is incredibly supportive and offered me access to the company's EAP, Employee Assistance Program, for grief counseling, which I took. The small victory came at 9:30 a.m. I got an official email notification. It was from the Austin Police Department. Email was terse, but the core information was incredible. They had executed a search warrant on Megan Thompson's residence related to the interstate fraud investigation. They found evidence connecting her to the P2P gambling sites and documentation confirming her significant, hidden debts. The final sentence made me exhale for the first time in weeks. Thompson is currently cooperating with APD regarding the misappropriated funds and has agreed to a structured repayment plan pending final prosecution decisions. She folded. The police report worked. The sheer weight of potential felony charges, coupled with the pressure from her own lawyer, who probably told her the Instagram stunts were a terrible idea, finally broke through her denial. I called Chloe, screaming, "Me?" She folded. "She's paying it back. Don't know when or how much, but the police made her agree to a plan." Chloe, "That's huge, Audrey. This means two things. One, the criminal case is solid, and two, you will get your money back, though it will take time. We need to follow up with Richard's office and demand the immediate closure of all legal threats against Jeffrey based on the new facts." I didn't care about Jeffrey's legal threats, TBH. He could face his own consequences. But knowing the thief was finally being held accountable was enough. Money was secondary to the principle. I spent the afternoon feeling this bizarre, floating sense of relief. It wasn't the perfect, satisfying moment of revenge I might have scripted in a movie. It was bureaucratic and slow, but it was real. 3 weeks later, and I'm still finding my rhythm in the shoebox sublet. I'm lonely sometimes. The sudden end of the relationship, the realization that I had fundamentally misunderstood the man I was going to marry, is a lingering pain. I realized I'd been ignoring red flags for months, justifying his silent observer role as calmness, when it was really just cowardice. But I'm also finding strength I forgot I had. I signed the retainer for the international divorce lawyer. I'm aggressively saving every penny. I know exactly how much I have in my new credit union account. I saw Jeffrey once. It was at Trader Joe's, naturally. He was buying groceries, maybe for his mom, maybe for himself. He looked thinner. And he saw me near the cereal aisle. He literally flinched, dropped a box of granola, and hid behind the Stindy advertising seasonal coffee creamer. The silent observer became the cowardly hider. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my organic kale paid for with my own money, thank you, and walked away. I didn't feel rage. I just felt pity. My sister-in-law, Megan, is still posting thinly veiled victim stories on Instagram, but she stopped mentioning me or the birth plan specifically. She's now posting about the difficulties of toxic family dynamics and navigating the complexities of wealth management. She's unreachable, legally, by me. She's only communicating through the police and her lawyer regarding the repayment. The first payment arrived yesterday. It was an official bank transfer for $250. It had no memo, no apology, just $250. It's going to take 11 more months at that rate to get the full amount back. It's slow, but it's happening. I deposited the money into my new savings account, the one I am now calling the Freedom Fund, and immediately sent the confirmation to Dr. Lenore, my actual therapist. Dr. Lenore called me that afternoon. She told me I'm having a breakthrough. I call it Tuesday. I asked her about the future, about dating, about starting a family again. I'm 39. The biological clock anxiety is real. She gave me some great advice. She said, "Audrey, you went into that relationship looking for stability, and you created stability for yourself, only to have it ripped away. The birth plan wasn't the problem. It was the test. You learned that next time, the plan needs to be built with a partner who actively supports the plan, not one who passively observes until it's convenient to dismantle it." She was right. I am fiercely protective of my finances, not because I am dramatic, but because I am capable. I survived the betrayal, the financial loss, the humiliation, and the public shaming. I got the police involved. I moved out. I prioritized my financial and emotional health. Yesterday, I was binge watching an old sitcom while eating my ramen, and I saw a stupid visual gag, and I actually laughed out loud. A real, honest-to-God laugh that didn't feel forced. I realized I'm going to be okay. Maybe I won't have the doula or the water birth right away. Maybe the timeline for a baby is pushed back a few years. But I am financially independent, legally untangled, and free from a toxic, codependent relationship. The journey back to $18,450 is going to be long. I still have bad days where I miss the comfort of apartment 3B and the person I thought Jeffrey was. But then I remember the phrase, "We should really consider scheduling a C-section or something less messy, for Megan's sake." I remember that I chose myself. I canceled the Disney Plus subscription today. Petty? Yes. Satisfying? Also yes. The small victories are adding up. Anyway, that's the update. I'm focusing on the Freedom Fund now. We'll update if Megan tries to claim emotional damages because my savings account interest rate is too high. You know, just in case. TBH, anything is possible with that woman. Thanks for letting me vent. This subreddit has been my cheap, anonymous therapy session. Seriously, I couldn't have processed half of this without typing it all out. Stay safe, y'all, and change those damn account pins immediately.